Alright, so this is for class 5 of digital imaging. I'm just going to quickly go through this and you can use it as a guide while you're gone. Okay, so first off, colorizing a photo. This is something we're going to do in class. If you scroll all the way down here, right here, this this is what we're going to do in class anyway, is I'm just going to colorize this photo. So what you're going to have to do for homework anyway, so you can literally just follow this, but we're going to do it in class. Here, basically today's class is going to be about digital painting. We can discuss some of the stuff with the brush tools and what have you. Here they are here. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So I guess I'll cover that. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do in class. We're going to colorize a photo. What I'll do is I will open up Photoshop and I will just create a new photo. Let's do, not custom, let's do this one, create. Okay. And I'm just going to talk about the mixer brush real quick, and then you can go about your business. So normally, if you have a, where's my pen? Well, we'll just use, 1 second. So normally what we use is we have this here, but what you'll notice is that our, if I use the brush tool with the mouse, right, it looks like this, but that's because I'm painting that, but it'll look like this, okay? Right now I got the opacity kind of high. All right, let's undo that. Seriously, opacity is what you're going to undo? Okay. It will brush like this if I have, if I just use the mouse, right? So, but if you use a tablet, and I happen to be using one right now, if I push light and push hard, it doesn't make any difference because I didn't turn it on yet. If you go up here, you'll see that there's this and there is this, okay? So this controls opacity based on pressure. So if I go light, it'll be light, but if I push hard, it'll be more opaque, okay? So you can kind of see. And this one will do the thickness. So if I go light, it'll be thin, but if I push hard, it'll be thicker, okay? If you do both, it'll do both of those things, okay? And you get much more realistic pen strokes that way. You know, I can kind of, all right? So when you do this next assignment, you're going to want to use a tablet, or it's kind of a requirement. So you got to use something. So anyways, that's the brush. Now, normally with the regular brush, when I draw something, so I'll just go like this, okay? And then I can choose different options here. Say this one, okay? And if I, let's say, do this color, when I draw over it, you can see it just draws directly over it, right? Just one line on top of another. This is where mixer brush is different, okay? So honestly, I actually still mostly prefer to paint with this brush as opposed to the mixer brush. This is just a regular paint brush, but if you hold it down, you'll see mixer brush. Now, mixer brush is meant to, it's meant to simulate real-world brushes more realistically. So when I have this up, you can see I have these tool settings up here. But it might be beneficial to actually, and we haven't really done much of that over here, but it might be beneficial to actually put on the brushes tab, right, and the brush settings tab. So you can see these are them. Okay, so basically all it is just a list of brushes that we have here. And you can see that we have general brushes, which is what we've been using most of the time. We have dry media brushes, which in this case are pencil brushes mostly. And then we have wet media brushes, which is kind of like, we got oil, ink, so on and so forth, and then these special effect brushes. Now your list might be totally different. There's actually not that many here. I would think there would be more. Let me click on the, no, that's not what I wanted. Let's see, here we go. Let's see, restore default brushes. You can also bring in more brushes. We'll just choose these here, but I'm going to show you as an example. So I could choose any one of these, and any one that has a little brush on it, see this little thing here? These are like special brushes. The ones on the top here, these are generic ones, so they don't have anything special about them. These ones are meant to be real world, and they will take more things into account. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm just going to do, let's see, round flex. Okay, we're going to do this oil one, okay? Now up here for the options, I have we'll cover that in a second. Basically, whatever color is currently loaded is up here, meaning that that's like what's on my brush. We have these two options here. The one on the left here is if it's going to load the brush after each stroke, meaning that it's going to re-put the color on there. And this one's clean the brush after each stroke. And then we have wetness and the way that it mixes. So I will just leave it at the defaults here so you can kind of see. And let's do yellow. So if I go over here, nothing too special, but watch this. Notice what it's doing. It's actually mixing with the paint underneath. And that's what makes this so special. Is that it's actually going to allow you, like if you have oil paints, I can kind of mix my stuff together. Now, this is where this over here is more significant. So this is showing what's on the brush. Now, if I have this on, what it's going to do is that every time it's going to reload the brush with more color. Okay. If I don't, well, it's not going to do too much over here. If you do this, what it's going to do is it's basically not going. So you see how it's empty here? So it's like my brush is running out. So now I can kind of almost in a weird way kind of smear these on. But if I turn this on too, it's then going to also add my color in as I'm going through, but it's also allowing it to mix with the stuff that's on here. All right. Now, this right here, these settings, I wouldn't really bother working with these individually. What you'd be better off doing is actually going over here and choosing these various options, okay? So what these will affect is how well they mix generally. So if I do dry, you can see how it just ended. I ran out of, it runs out of ink, okay? But let's say I do very wet. You can see it basically doesn't run out of ink. Okay. And if you do something moist, light mix, you'll see that it does eventually run out, but it's, it's moderate. Okay. So if you're trying to mix a whole bunch of stuff, go in here. If you want to try and keep it dry so you're not mixing as much, you go up here, and that will just change the settings here. Like I said, generally I would just leave these alone. Now, you might want to change some of the way that your strokes are. You might want to change some of the settings of your brush specifically. Okay, so let's say I'm using this brush. Okay, what I could do is go to the brush settings, and then in here I can change what the alpha is that it's using. This is like basically what it's using as a stamp. So we'll say I use this one. And now you'll see when I draw across, let me get a different color. Let's do like an orange here. And let's make it bigger with the two keys to the right of the bracket keys to the right of P. Okay? So you can see that's what it does now, because it's going to take whatever I have here and basically repeat it. Alright, so I'm going to go with, let me see if I find one I like. I don't really like that one. We'll go with this one still. Okay, and go with this. Now, you can choose spacing. If I turn spacing off, if I go farther, you'll see that it'll be more splattered. If I go to nothing, it'll be like one long stroke, which generally is what I want. And we can change the size. We can also change the way it looks here, the angle of it, so you can rotate that alpha basically. And you can also squeeze it. So you'll see, like if I go like this, it's going to give me kind of a calligraphy look. Alright, so it's up to you what you want to do there. And there's other things over here. So shape dynamics. This will change the way that it looks. All sorts of stuff. Texture. You can add a texture to it. Smoothing, all that other good stuff. Let's see. Let's go here, and I would have thought that would have let me do it. Let me see. Let me try dry media brushes. Let's try this one. Okay, good. We're going to do this dry media brush. I'm going to do this color dynamics. And with this is the main thing I suggest doing if you want to do like painting. If you turn that on by doing this, and then also select it so you can see the options here, you can see when I draw each stroke, I don't know if you can tell. See how they're different? right? Because normally when you paint stuff, it's not all one solid color. Like when you see real paintings, there's usually a variation, and them combined make them different. So some of the options here that I like is this hue jitter. So the more you change this, it's gonna shift the color quite a bit. So this is usually 3% is fine. Saturation is how much, so it'll get gray or colored, right? So it's all within the same spectrum right now, but it's kind of making it less and more saturated. Brightness, obviously. And you can do foreground and background jitter, which means these two things here. So if I go up higher, it's going to mix between those two colors, basically. You know, it's going to be all the stuff in between. But I like to, when I'm like coloring stuff, I'll just use this little by little, and then you can kind of color in an object, and you get kind of a free variation, all right? And there's other stuff in here, too, that you could play around with. I honestly don't use too much of this, but, you know, oops, come on, give me noise. Were you locked or something? Unlock. Oh, I guess you could just turn these on. It must not have settings. Okay. But, yeah, so you can look at these and, you know, make some choices about what you want to do. Yeah. All right, let's go back to here. So that's sort of what the paint settings are. Now, for your assignment, what you're going to do is two things. You're going to do image colorization. So I want you to take a black and white photo and then colorize it. And I kind of cover the process in this one, so you can just follow along with this, but with your own photo. And then the other thing I want you to do is create a digital painting. All right. Now, there's two ways that you can do this. You can do one where, if you follow along with this one, you just paint from scratch. You start with nothing, and then you paint like an animal or something. You can just watch it. And then the other one is you take a photo, and then you sample from that photo, and you paint on top of it, and it'll look like a painted version of what it is. And that's this. So you have to do this, and then one of these two. So you can choose which one you want to do. Either do over top of a photo if you don't feel very comfortable with your painting skills, or you can paint from scratch. All right, but that's basically what the assignments are, and you can just follow along with these, and there'll be better examples. You should probably watch both of them because we're going to do both of them in class, but there'll probably be better examples of what you could do. All right, good. So get to it.